The shuttle doors opened and Doctor stepped onto the deck of the Covenant of Teeth for the first time. The air hit him immediately. It was thick and warm and smelled of metal and something else. Something alive. Something dangerous. Was not a tall man. He stood at 5 feet and 9 inches, which was average for a human. But here, surrounded by the warriors of the Galactic Predator Coalition, he felt like a child standing among monsters. A soldier walked past him. The creature stood over 8 feet tall, covered in thick green scales that looked like armor. Its yellow eyes looked down at with something between amusement and disgust. They had claws the size of kitchen knives and teeth that could bite through steel. It snorted and kept walking. Clutched his data pad and tried to remember why he had volunteered for this mission. Earth had only recently made contact with the Coalition. The Coalition was an alliance of predator species from across the galaxy. They had conquered their way to power over thousands of years. They respected strength. They power. And they had looked at humanity and seen nothing worth respecting. But Earth needed allies. Earth needed protection, and so had been sent as a cultural liaison. His job was to study them, learn their ways, and somehow convince them that humans were worthy of partnership. So far, it was not going well. "Move, Softmeat," a voice clicked behind him. Stepped aside quickly. A pushed past him. There were creatures with 4 arms ending in blade-like appendages. Their exoskeletons were black and shiny, and their compound eyes seemed to look everywhere at once. This one did not even glance at as it passed. He was beneath its notice. Found his quarters after getting lost twice. The room was small and bare. The bed was a metal slab with a thin pad on top. The Coalition did not believe in comfort. Comfort was for the weak. He sat on the bed and looked at his hands. Soft, pink. No claws, no scales, no venom, no natural weapons of any kind. He understood why they laughed at him. The first week was difficult. The second week was worse. Was assigned to data processing. It was the most boring and useless job on the ship. They gave it to him because they did not trust him to do anything else. Every day, he sat in a small room and sorted through reports that nobody would ever read. He was kept far away from the combat training areas, the weapons bays, and the command center. The other species did not hide their contempt. In the cafeteria, the soldiers would accidentally knock his food tray out of his hands. They would click their mandibles in laughter when he walked by. The who were tall and thin with 4 arms and blue skin would whisper to each other and point at him like he was a strange animal in a zoo. One day, a young blocked his path in the corridor. "Human," they said, leaning down until its face was inches from us. "I have a question." Stood very still. "Yes." "How do your people survive on your planet? You have no claws, no armor, no venom. You are slow. You are weak. You are soft." The poked chest with one claw hard enough to leave a bruise. "By all logic, you should have been eaten by your predators long ago. How are you not extinct?" Thought about the question. He thought about human history, about the wolves and lions and bears that his ancestors had faced, about the mammoths they had hunted to extinction, about how they had spread across every continent and conquered every environment. "We are persistent," said quietly. They stared at him for a moment, then burst into hissing laughter. "Persistent. The soft meat thinks persistence can replace strength." It walked away, still laughing. Watched it go. He did not try to explain further. They would not have understood. But someone was watching. Across the corridor in the shadows of an alcove stood a massive figure. This was larger than the others, much larger. His scales were darker, almost black, marked with old scars that crossed his face and arms. His eyes were not yellow like the others but deep orange, like cooling embers. His name was, and he was called the Apex of Apexes. Every species in the Coalition knew his name. He had fought in more battles than anyone could count. He had killed more enemies than most armies. When he walked through the corridors, other warriors stepped aside and bowed their heads. He was not just respected, he was feared. He was. And for some reason, he was watching the small human with great interest. Had heard the stories about humans. He had read the reports from the scouts who had visited Earth. Soft bodies, short, no natural weapons. They seemed like prey animals who had somehow developed technology before being eaten. But there was something in the reports that bothered him, something that did not fit. Humans had conquered their planet. They had killed their predators. They had spread across every land and every sea. They had built machines that could fly and boats that could cross oceans. They had split the atom and walked on their moon. How had prey animals done all of that? Watched the human walk away after being mocked by the young. He noticed that the human did not seem angry, did not seem afraid. There was something in his eyes that recognized. It was the look of someone who was waiting. The great warrior turned and walked back to his quarters. He had much to think about. Meanwhile, continued his work. He processed his data. He ate his meals alone. He endured the mockery and the insults and the accidents that left bruises on his body. He did not complain. He did not fight back. He simply continued. The other species took this as proof of his weakness. They did not understand that they were watching something very human, something very dangerous. They were watching patience. 3 weeks into his assignment, an alarm suddenly screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Looked up from his data pad as the ship's announcement system crackled to life. Containment breach in sectors 7 through 12. Parasitic organisms released. All personnel evacuate immediately. Repeat, all personnel evacuate immediately. Heard the thunder of running feet outside his door. He heard screaming. He heard something else too, something wet, something hungry. He did not know it yet, but his real mission was about to begin. The alarms would not stop screaming. Ran to the nearest information terminal and pulled up the ship's status. The containment breach was bad, very bad. A research team had been transporting parasitic organisms from a conquered world when something went wrong. The creatures had escaped into the lower decks. The parasites were small, about the size of a human fist, but they were fast and they were hungry. They had hundreds of tiny teeth and they attacked in swarms. Already, 17 crew members were trapped in the contaminated sections. Watched as the ship's commander, a massive name, appeared on the screen. Seal sections 7 through 12, the commander ordered. Prepare to vent atmosphere. Felt his stomach drop. Venting atmosphere meant opening the sections to space. It would kill the parasites. It would also kill everyone trapped inside. Commander, an officer said, there are still 17 crew members in those sections. I am aware, replied. His voice was cold. Their sacrifice will be honored. Begin the venting sequence. Stared at the screen. 17 people. They were just going to let 17 people die because it was easier than trying to save them. He thought about his training. He thought about his mission. He thought about what his superiors on Earth would want him to do. Then he stopped thinking and started moving. The maintenance shafts were small and dark. They were designed for repair drones, not people. Had to crawl on his hands and knees, squeezing through spaces that scraped his shoulders and back. But they were also unmonitored. Nobody was watching the maintenance shafts. He reached Section 7 in 20 minutes. He could hear the parasites through the walls. They made a wet clicking sound that made his skin crawl. He could also hear something else. Voices, frightened voices. Found an access panel and pulled it open. He dropped down into a corridor filled with emergency lighting. The main lights were out. The red emergency lamps cast strange shadows everywhere. Hello, he called out. Is anyone there? Silence, then a voice, frightened, disbelieving. The human, the soft meat is here. Followed the voice. He found a group of 5 crew members barricaded inside a storage room. 3, 1, and 1. They stared at him like he was a ghost. What are you doing here? They demanded. They are venting the sections in less than 2 hours. Then we have less than 2 hours to get everyone out, said. He looked at them calmly. How many groups are there? Where are they located? The just stared. The exchanged confused looks. The clicked its mandibles nervously. You cannot save us, the said. The parasites are everywhere. They will eat you alive. Pulled out his data pad. He had downloaded the ship's schematics before entering the shafts. He studied the layout of the contaminated sections quickly. The parasites, he said, they have large eyes, yes, sensitive to light. Yes, I answered slowly. They come from a dark world. Bright light hurts them. Nodded. He had read the research files during his boring data processing shifts. He had read everything he could find about the ship and its cargo. He had done it out of boredom. Now it might save lives. And they are cold-blooded. They slow down in cold temperatures. Yes, but how does that help us? We cannot control the temperature or the lights from here. Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just found a solution to an impossible problem. Yes, we can, he said. Follow me. What happened over the next 11 hours became a legend on the Covenant of Teeth. Led the first group through maintenance corridors to a secondary lighting control room. He rewired the emergency systems to pulse at maximum brightness in specific patterns. The parasites scattered, temporarily blinded and confused. He found a coolant pipe and punctured it with a piece of debris. The cold liquid sprayed into the corridors where the parasites gathered, slowing them down until they could barely move. He communicated with the other trapped groups through damaged intercom systems, guiding them through safe paths one by one. He knew the ship's layout better than creatures who had lived on it for years. He had memorized it because he had nothing else to do. A parasite bit his left arm. The teeth sank deep, hitting bone, ripped it off and kept moving. He fell through a damaged floor panel and broke 2 ribs. He wrapped them with torn cloth and kept moving. His body screamed at him to stop. His muscles burned. His vision blurred. A medical officer who was monitoring his vital signs from the barricade watched in disbelief as his stress hormones reached levels that should have killed him. He should be unconscious, she whispered. His heart should have stopped by now. How is he still moving? But kept moving. He was not strong like the. He was not fast like the. He was not armored like the. But he was human, and humans had one ability that no other species in the galaxy seemed to share. Humans did not stop. The last survivor was a young who had been trapped alone in a flooded section, found him half-drowned and barely conscious. He dragged the warrior through 3 corridors and up a ladder while parasites snapped at his heels. He was running on nothing but willpower by then. His body had given up long ago. He pushed through the final access hatch into the safe section, just as the venting sequence began in the contaminated areas. Then collapsed. He did not see the faces of the 17 crew members he had saved staring down at him. He did not see the confusion and the awe in their eyes. He did not see the crowd of warriors who had gathered to watch the impossible rescue on the security monitors. And he did not see the apex of apexes, pushing through the crowd to reach the medical bay. The great warrior stood over the unconscious human for a long time. He looked at the broken body, the torn flesh, the bruises and the blood. He looked at a creature that had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. And he understood something that changed everything. The human was not weak. The human was something far more dangerous. The human was a survivor. Woke up 3 days later in the medical bay. His body was wrapped in bandages. His left arm was in a healing cast. His ribs had been repaired with bone-knitting technology that the medical officer said was too advanced to waste on someone like him. She had used it anyway. You should be dead, she told him matter-of-factly. Your body experienced enough trauma and stress to kill 3 warriors. Your heart should have burst. Your muscles should have torn themselves apart. By all medical logic, you should not have survived. Tried to shrug, but his shoulders hurt too much. Humans are stubborn, he said. The medical officer stared at him with her 4 eyes. That is not an explanation. It is the only one I have. Word of the rescue spread through the ship like fire. The crew members he had saved told their stories to anyone who would listen. The human had crawled through maintenance shafts. The human had outsmarted the parasites. The human had refused to stop even when his body was breaking. The mockery did not stop completely, but it became quieter. Some warriors still called him soft meat, but others had started using a different term. They called him the stubborn one. It was not respect exactly, but it was something. Then started visiting. The first time the apex of apexes appeared in the medical bay, every other patient suddenly found somewhere else to be. Was left alone with the most dangerous warrior in the coalition. Sat down on a metal stool that creaked under his massive weight. He stared at with those burning orange eyes. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "How long can a human run?" finally asked. Blinked, it was not the question he had expected. "What do you mean?" "Before you collapse, before your body fails, how long can a human run?" Thought about it. It depends on the human. Some can run for hours. The best trained ones can run for days if they have water and a little food. Leaned forward, days. Our ancestors hunted that way. On Earth, in the hot places, humans would chase animals across the land. Not fast. We are not fast, but we would follow, we would track, we would never stop. Eventually, the animal would collapse from exhaustion. Its heart would give out, and we would walk up to it and kill it. The great was silent for a long time. His claws tapped against his armored thigh slowly. "You did not run from the parasites," said. "You did not fight them either. You thought your way through them. You used their weaknesses against them, and when your body tried to stop, you ignored it." He paused. "This is how humans hunt. This is how humans survive," replied. Came back the next day, and the day after that. Each time he asked more questions. He asked about human history, told him about ancient humans facing wolves and bears and saber-toothed cats. He told him how humans had hunted mammoths to extinction. He explained how humans had spread across every continent and adapted to every climate. He asked about human weapons, told him about spears and bows and guns. He told him about tanks and bombs and nuclear missiles. He explained that humans had invented technology to make up for what their bodies lacked. He asked about human society, told him about tribes and nations and empires. He told him about wars that lasted for generations. He explained that humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years and had never once stopped. "You do not sound like prey," said one day. His voice was thoughtful. "We are not prey," replied. "We just do not look like predators." The conversations became a regular thing. Every evening would come to wherever was resting and they would talk. The other species noticed. They whispered to each other. Why was the apex of apexes spending so much time with the soft meat? Some of them were jealous. Some of them were confused. One of them was angry. His name was, and he was an officer of high rank. He had worked for years to earn attention. He had fought in dozens of battles. He had proven himself again and again. And now the great champion was ignoring him to spend time with a worthless human. Found alone in the recreation area one day. The human was reading something on his data pad, unaware of the danger approaching behind him. Human hissed. Turned around slowly. He saw the standing there with all 4 blade arms raised slightly. The message was clear. This was a threat. "Yes," asked calmly. "You have been spending time with. This is not acceptable. You are not worthy to breathe the same air as the apex of apexes." "He comes to me," said simply. "I do not seek him out." Mandibles clicked angrily. "Then you will make him stop. You will tell him you are not worthy. You will tell him you are afraid. You will tell him whatever you must to end this insult." looked at the for a long moment. He thought about what to say. He thought about being diplomatic, about being careful. Then he remembered the 17 people he had saved. He remembered crawling through maintenance shafts with parasites biting at his flesh. He remembered refusing to stop even when his body screamed for rest. "No," he said. "Froze, what did you say?" "I said no. I will not lie. I will not pretend to be afraid. And I will not insult by suggesting that his judgment is wrong." The stepped closer, its blade arms gleamed in the light. "Then I challenge you," it hissed. "The traditional hunting trial in the wildlife preserve. No weapons, no armor, just your soft flesh against the prey beasts." Its compound eyes glittered with malice. "You will die, human, and everyone will see how weak you truly are." Before could respond, a shadow fell over them both. Stood in the doorway. His massive form filled the entire entrance. His orange eyes glowed like coals in the dim lighting. "I will observe this hunt," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the room like thunder. Its blade arms lowered immediately. Its exoskeleton seemed to pale. "Apex," it stammered. "I did not mean to." "I will observe," repeated. "The entire coalition will know the result." He looked at with an expression that might have been curiosity or respect or something else entirely. "Prepare yourself, human. You will face the trial in 3 days." He turned and walked away. Watched him go. Then he looked at who was still frozen in shock. "I guess I should start studying the wildlife preserve," said mildly. "Do you know if there is a manual?" The did not answer. It was too busy wondering what it had just started. The wildlife preserve was a massive section of the ship, stretching across multiple decks. It contained artificial forests, grasslands, and even a small desert. The coalition used it for hunting practice and for entertainment. Warriors would be released into the preserve to track and kill dangerous creatures. It was considered great sport. Stood at the entrance wearing only simple clothes. No armor, no weapons. That was the rule for him. The other species had natural weapons built into their bodies. Humans did not. Therefore, according to law, would face the trial with nothing. Behind him, hundreds of crew members had gathered to watch through the observation windows. This was the most exciting thing to happen on the ship in months. The soft meat was going to die, and everyone wanted to see it. Stood nearby, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. "Your prey will be a razor elk," he announced loudly. "Fast, strong, venomous horns that can kill with a single scratch. Even experienced hunters approach it with caution." He turned to look at with obvious pleasure. "You have until tomorrow morning to make a kill. If you fail, you forfeit. If you die." He shrugged his 4 arms. "Well, that solves the problem too." Said nothing. He was studying the map of the preserve on his data pad, memorizing the terrain. A door slid open on the far side of the preserve, and the razor elk was released. Caught a glimpse of it through the trees. It was tall and thin, with blue-gray fur and a set of twisted horns that glistened with poison. It moved with incredible speed, disappearing into the forest within seconds. "Begin," announced. Walked into the preserve. The first hour was boring for the observers. Did not run, he did not even jog. He simply walked through the forest studying the ground. He found tracks. He found broken branches. He followed them slowly and carefully. The razor elk heard him coming and ran. It was fast, incredibly fast. It could sprint at speeds that would leave any human far behind. Kept walking. The second hour was confusing. The observers watched as the human continued his slow pursuit. Some of them laughed. Others grew impatient. What was he doing? Did he not understand that he would never catch the creature at this pace? Watched in silence from the main observation deck. His orange eyes never left the human. The third hour passed, the fourth, the fifth. Found a stream and drank deeply. He found some berries that his research had told him were safe for humans, and he ate them. He rested for 15 minutes. Then he continued walking. The razor elk ran again when it heard him approaching. It sprinted for almost a mile before stopping to rest in a clearing. 20 minutes later, walked into the clearing. The elk fled again. By the 8th hour, the observers were no longer laughing. They were confused, they were disturbed. The human was still walking, still following, still coming. "What is he doing?" I asked nervously. "He is tiring it out," another replied slowly, as if unable to believe what she was saying. "He is making it run until it cannot run anymore." "That is impossible. The razor elk can sprint for hours." "Can it sprint for hours without rest, again and again, without water, without food?" Silence fell over the observation deck. The 10th hour passed, the 12th. The razor elk was visibly tired now. Its sprints were shorter, its rests were longer, but every time it stopped the human appeared again, walking, always walking. Was tired too. His legs burned. His lungs ached. The broken ribs that had not fully healed sent bolts of pain through his chest with every step. But he thought about his ancestors on the African plains. He thought about the antelope they had chased for days. He thought about the wolves that humans had tamed by proving themselves worthy pack members. He kept walking. The 18th hour. Had slept for 2 hours in a protected hollow. The elk had tried to rest too, but its instincts would not let it sleep while a predator was nearby. It was exhausted, frightened, confused. No predator had ever hunted it like this. The 24th hour. Found the elk drinking desperately from a stream. It saw him and tried to run, but its legs shook so badly it nearly fell. It managed a slow trot instead, putting distance between them. Sat down by the stream and drank. He washed his face. He rested for an hour. Then he continued. The observers had stopped talking entirely. They stared at the screens with something close to horror. This was not hunting as they understood it. This was not the quick kill of a superior predator. This was something else, something patient, something unstoppable. "He is still coming," a young whispered. "He never stops, he just keeps coming." The 30th hour. The razor elk could barely stand. It had run itself to exhaustion dozens of times. It had not slept. It had not eaten. Its heart was laboring dangerously. It stood in a small clearing, watching the tree line, waiting, knowing. Walked out of the trees. The elk did not run. It could not run. It stood there, trembling, its venomous horns lowered. But there was no strength behind them. The poison was still deadly, but the creature could not lift its head high enough to strike. Stopped 10 feet away. For a long moment, man and beast looked at each other. The elk's eyes were wild with fear and exhaustion. It had never experienced anything like this. Predators were supposed to be fast. They were supposed to chase and catch or give up. They did not follow forever. They did not keep coming no matter how far you ran. But this thing, this small, soft creature, had done exactly that. Sat down on the ground. The elk watched him, still trembling. Did not move. He did not approach. He did not threaten. He simply sat there, breathing heavily, waiting. The 31st hour. The razor elk's legs gave out. It collapsed onto its side, its breathing ragged and weak. Its heart, pushed beyond all limits, began to fail. Sat beside it. He placed one hand gently on its flank. He could feel its heartbeat slowing. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. Within minutes, the razor elk was dead. Not from any wound, not from any violence. It had died from exhaustion, from fear, from being hunted by something that would not stop. Stood up slowly. He looked at the observation windows far above him, knowing that hundreds of predator warriors were watching. He did not celebrate. He did not roar in triumph. He simply turned and walked toward the exit. In the observation deck, no one moved. No one spoke. Broke the silence. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the room. "Now you understand," he said. "Now you see what humans are." He turned to look at the gathered warriors. His orange eyes burned with something fierce. They do not need claws, they do not need fangs, they do not need armor or venom. He pointed at the screen where was limping toward the exit. They simply refuse to stop. They follow their prey until it dies of fear. They are not fast. They are not strong. They are something worse. He paused, letting his words sink in. They are inevitable. Emerged from the wildlife preserve to absolute silence. Hundreds of warriors lined the corridor. They stood in perfect stillness, watching him walk past. Their eyes followed him with something that had not been there before. It was not quite respect. It was closer to fear. Pushed through the crowd, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "This hunt is invalid," he declared. "The prey was not killed. The human did not strike a single blow." No one responded. No one agreed with him. The warriors simply stared. "Are you all deaf?" demanded. "The rules state that the hunter must kill the prey. The human just sat there and watched it die." "The prey is dead," I said quietly. "The human hunted it to death. What more do you require?" "I require a kill, a proper kill, with strength and skill and—" "Enough." The single word cut through the air like a blade. Stepped out of the crowd. His massive form seemed to fill the entire corridor. His orange eyes fixed on with an intensity that made the step backward involuntarily. "The hunt was successful," said. "The prey died. The hunter lives. By every law of the coalition, this trial is complete." He paused. "Unless you wish to challenge my judgment." His blade arms lowered. His compound eyes darted left and right, looking for support. He found none. "No, Apex," he said finally. "I do not challenge you." Nodded slowly, then he turned to. The human looked terrible. He was covered in dirt and sweat. His clothes were torn. His face was pale with exhaustion. He could barely stand. But he was still standing. Took a deep breath. Then he spoke in the old language of the ancient tongue that was used only for the most sacred rituals. His voice echoed off the metal walls. The other in the crowd gasped. Some of them stepped back in shock. Others fell to their knees. An officer turned to her companion. "What is he saying? What does it mean?" The companion was trembling. "He speaks the words of," she whispered, "the bonding of hunt brothers, the ritual of family." "I do not understand." "He is declaring the human to be his family, his brother, his blood." The stared. "That is impossible. That has never been spoken for someone outside the species. It is forbidden." "Nothing is forbidden to the apex of apexes." Finished speaking the ancient words. Then he switched to the common language so everyone could understand. "I, apex of apexes, declare this human to be my hunt brother, my family." His orange eyes swept across the crowd. "To harm him is to harm me. To insult him is to insult me. To challenge him is to challenge me. This I swear by my blood and my honor and my kills." The corridor was completely silent. Looked up at the massive warrior. He did not fully understand what was happening, but he could see its effect on the crowd. Warriors who had mocked him for weeks were now looking at him with something close to terror. He said quietly, "I do not know if I deserve this." The great warrior looked down at him. For the first time, something like warmth entered those burning eyes. "You do not understand, human. I have killed thousands. I have fought battles across 100 worlds. Any fool can end a life. Any beast can destroy." He placed one massive clawed hand on shoulder gently. "But you are different. You do not conquer. You endure. You do not destroy. You persist. In all my years, I have never seen a predator like you." He pulled closer. "My people respect strength, but strength fades. Warriors grow old, muscles weaken, claws dull." He tapped his chest right over his heart. "But this does not fade. This makes you dangerous in a way we do not understand. And what we do not understand, we fear." Thought about his ancestors again. The ones who had tamed wolves by being trustworthy partners. The ones who had built civilizations by working together. The ones who had survived ice ages and famines and wars by simply refusing to give up. "Thank you," he said. It seemed inadequate, but it was all he had. released him, and turned to face the crowd one final time. Let it be known across the coalition and beyond, humans are not prey, they are not weak, they are not soft meat to be mocked and dismissed. His voice rose until it echoed like thunder. They are persistence predators. They will follow you to the ends of the universe. They will not stop. They will never stop. And when you finally fall, they will be there. He paused. Do not hunt humans. They will hunt you back, and they will win. The crowd began to disperse. Warriors walked away in silence, many of them looking back with new eyes. Disappeared without another word, his challenge forgotten, his pride destroyed. Over the following weeks, everything changed. Was moved to better quarters. He was invited to strategic meetings. Officers who had once laughed at him now asked for his opinion. The data processing job was given to someone else. But more importantly, the word spread beyond the Covenant of Teeth. Reports went out to every corner of the coalition. A new entry was added to the Galactic Species database. Species human. Origin Earth Sol system. Classification persistence predator. Threat level existential. Warning, do not engage in extended conflict. They will not stop. They will never stop. Stood on the observation deck one evening, watching the stars slide past. Stood beside him, a massive shadow in the dim lighting. What happens now? Asked. Now, your people join the coalition as equals, replied. Not because we want to be your friends, but because we are afraid to be your enemies. Laugh softly. That is a strange way to make allies. Perhaps, but it is the way of predators. We respect what can destroy us, and you have shown us that your kind can destroy anything. He looked down at the human. You simply have to decide to do it. Thought about that. He thought about human history, the wars, the genocides, the atomic bombs, the endless cycle of violence that seemed to define his species as much as their persistence. We try not to, he said finally. We try to be better than our nature. Was silent for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. And that, he said, is the most terrifying thing of all. You have the ability to destroy worlds and you choose not to. You have the will to hunt anything to death and you seek peace instead. He shook his head slowly. The universe has never seen anything like you. Smiled and looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning around its small yellow sun. His people were living their lives, unaware that they had just been reclassified from prey to apex predator. He was still small, still soft, still technically fragile. But he was no longer alone. And somewhere in the galaxy, other species were learning what it meant to have humans as either enemies or friends. Most of them were choosing to be friends. They had seen what happened to the razor elk. They had heard the stories of the soft meat who would not stop. They did not want to be hunted. Not by something that would follow them to the end of the universe. Not by something inevitable. Not by humans.